So a little story time now that I've got some time to talk to y'all about last night. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jaleesa if you're new here, and in this video I'm gonna take you all with me on my recent trip to New York City. As you all know, we're about to fly out to move to Italy, but while we're still waiting on some paperwork, we figured we'd hang out with my brother for a couple of days. We ended up taking the train to New York from Northern Virginia, which was a cool experience. I haven't been on the train in a year, so it was fun to just kind of relax and let someone else do all the work. I will say there was some last minute confusion on what side of the track everyone needed to be on to catch the train, but once we hightailed it across the bridge, we were able to all get on the train quickly and head off to New York. When we arrived in New York, we arrived in the new Moynihan train station and met my brother there. And our first immediate mission and goal was the knockout Times Square. This was Marcus' first trip to New York, and that was really the only reason why we decided we were going to do Times Square. If you've ever been to New York, you know that Times Square is super busy and packed with a lot of tourists. And since we arrived on a Thursday afternoon, we figured we'd get it out the way before the mad rush got there. After we finished Times Square, my brother took us to this rooftop spot in Manhattan, which was super cute. They had good cocktails and the food was all right. It was just like a nice place to get a little snack. Once we finished lunch, we got on the train and headed to Brooklyn, where my brother lives and where we were going to be staying. We needed to go back to kind of change and get ready for the evening. It was definitely obvious that Marcus and I were not from the city, because while everyone was making a mad dash running to the train, we were walking around with our cameras, just kind of taking a nice stroll in the subway, y'all. So as a pregame to our evening, we headed out to this lovely wine bar right around the corner from my brother's house, and it was fabulous, y'all. This spot does require reservations, but luckily it was a Thursday and we came early enough so we were able to pop in and eat a lovely charcuterie board and enjoy some delicious wine. I highly recommend going to this place if you are going to be visiting New York. Now, after a bit of a chaotic situation in Manhattan, we ended our evening back in Brooklyn and had dinner at this rooftop spot called Laser Room. It has a beautiful view of the city, and when I tell you they have some of the best chicken wings I have ever had in my life, I'm not lying to y'all. I'm not gaslighting y'all. The wings were fried to perfection. Everything that we ate was really, really good. The cocktails were great, and you have to go. Laser Wolf, a must. Now, we kicked off day 2 of our trip at this small taco spot called Mockingbird, which coincidentally is also owned by the same person who owned the wine bar we went to and Sun the day before. Now, right next to Mockingbird is this small coffee shop called Hamlet. So while we were waiting for Mockingbird to finish our tacos, we jumped over, got some coffee from Hamlet, and both the coffee and the tacos helped us to really kick off our day on the right foot. After we had breakfast, my brother had to separate from us because he had another meeting for work. And while he was taking his meeting, Marcus and I decided to walk to Prospect Park and just take some pictures and chill out until he was finished. Good morning, y'all. So, a little story time now that I've got some time to talk to y'all about last night. Last night was so much fun, but it was a lot going on. So, once we left my brother's spot and went to this fabulous wine bar called & Son. After that, we headed back to Manhattan because my brother had an event for his film. So, he went to his event, and Marcus and I, we kind of hung out in Times Square. But let me tell you, I did not pack appropriately for this trip at all. I packed like it was Virginia weather, 80s, 90s, and it is like a cool 50s, 60s here. It is gold, not brick squad, but it is gold. It is cold up here, so I did not pack appropriately at all, and I packed to be cute. I did not pack to be walking. I thought I was going to be having like a Sex and the City experience or a Real Housewives of New York experience where I'm getting driven around in Suburbans. No, I'm living a real deal life. We walking and taking the subway. So I did not pack appropriate. I wore some wedges last night to Times Square, thinking that like, oh, I wear wedges all the time, I'll be fine. No, feet were killing me after like a block or two walking from my brother's house. So once my brother separated from us, I was like, I'm on a mission. I need to find some comfortable shoes. Of course, everything is expensive here. I wasn't really trying to drop $100 on sneakers. So I ended up finding like some flats at H&M. My pinky toe has blisters, so the shoe helped a little bit, but like they were flat, they're horrible. So my feet were still hurting. So it was a mad, chaotic situation trying to find some shoes in Times Square yesterday. After a nice walk and photo shoot in Prospect Park, we decided to get some lunch in Brooklyn before we headed back to Manhattan. I can't correctly pronounce the name of this Japanese spot, but I will say the fish here was really, really fresh, and they had really good sake. After having a heavy lunch, we decided we needed to kind of walk off all those calories we ate at the Japanese spot. So we took a nice stroll through Manhattan, and I'm sure you all can see we saw some familiar places while on our walk. Eventually, during our walk, we reached our final main activity for the day, which was to go up top on the edge and get some good views of the city. I will warn anyone who is thinking about doing this excursion, depending upon what time of the year you do go, make sure you dress appropriately and dress warm, because obviously you're up high, over 100 flights up top, and it can get very windy and cold, but I will say the views were beautiful of New York. Now, on our final day of our trip, it did rain, so we were kind of limited in what we could do, but I will say we kicked off our morning with a proper brunch, y'all. and we had brunch at this restaurant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn called Pheasant, and the limoncello spritzers. You gotta get it. You gotta get it. You gotta try it for yourself, y'all. After brunch, we headed back to Manhattan, of course, and we decided to pop into this interesting museum called the Museum of Sex. And I will say I was pleasantly surprised on how much they had in the museum. It's definitely worth a pop in and a peek if you do have some time to squeeze it into your agenda. The museum had some interesting sex artifacts. They had some great exhibits that really got your mind thinking, and they also had an arcade at the bottom of the museum.
When there's nothing random, loop-de-loops isn't the answer. Everybody gorgeous, every day important, everything is glamorous. When there's honest inside your hand, got a severe fear of judgment, but not as much lately. Ate a bowl full of wash it down with some crazy. Put a text to my label, read, pay me, then erased it, cause I'm passive as a pacifist daisy. Yeah, life full of loops and ways to poke at a hole. Truth a hard thing to find, and even harder to hold. Too pretty long to find stride with this watery soul, but I always knew it'd come if I kept walking the road.
After we finished with the museum, we headed back to Brooklyn, and of course we stopped by Junior's to get a little snack of cheesecake. I actually owed my mom a cheesecake, so I had to pop in there and grab her a cheesecake to go before we went back to Virginia. Now, to close out our night and really our trip, we ended the evening at this super hip and poppin' restaurant called Otis. The vibes there were amazing, y'all. The cocktails were good and the food was good too. So this is another one that I highly recommend you all visit when you are in New York. And just to be a little spontaneous, we decided to go to a jazz bar. They had a live band playing that evening and they were really, really good. We got through a little late, so we had to stand in the standing room, but it was still a good time. Hope you all enjoyed this video and were able to live vicariously through me on my trip to New York. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video below.